We're exactly on 3 o'clock. I think we're just waiting for 1 or 2 more participants, and then we will kick off. Albert, Chart, Kevin, good to see you guys.
The same. It's nice to see everybody as well.
Yeah.
I must add, Brian, that the last session I did was
Thank you,
wine
likewise.
tasting.
Sorry, Chart, you were saying the last session?
Was with the wine tasting.
Oh, was that the last session?
Yeah.
Where
nice.
I had to tap dance a little bit on my wine knowledge.
Yeah, no, you were gooing, so well done.
That was a good session. I remember that one. I think that one will remain in infamy for a little while.
I've been now started drinking wine, so well done.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Sandila, Jason, Renee, I see you guys have joined us as well. I think that we've pretty much got everyone in the call, so we can kick off. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our To Do More with Less technology workshop in partnership today with Cloud Mania. For anyone who doesn't know me, I think everyone here knows me, but I'm Brian Timperley. I'm Chief Executive at Teredo, and I'm joined by some of our team together with Cloud Mania and our presenter, Yuren Ruplal, who'll be taking us through today's content. I hope everyone received their snack delivery, and we hope that you enjoy that during the session. There is a beer there. Unfortunately, we couldn't deliver it ice cold, but hopefully you'll get that on ice and enjoy it sometime during the session. Today, we're focusing on getting more out of your Microsoft stack, and specifically in this particular and immense powerful amount of tools that are still in the Teams collaboration tools, the security solutions already included, and the business voice capabilities that you can unlock. So this session is really about helping you guys unlock that immense potential that exists in the environment already. Within Teredo, Microsoft remains one of our fastest growing divisions, with over a dozen perpetual migrations to Azure and Office 365 at any given time. And we want to ensure that our customers get the most out of the tools that you guys have already invested in. So as always, please make notes of any questions that you have during the session. You're always welcome to pop questions into the chat as well, and our facilitators will bring your questions up on your behalf. We'll jump into a Q&A session at the end. There's always roughly 20-25 minutes at the end for a Q&A session, so there's plenty of time if you want to get into a little bit of detail there, and you're welcome to ask our team anything that's on your mind at that stage, either specifically related to your business or on the general tools that we'll be covering today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Yuren for the prezo, and thank you everyone for joining, and enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Brian. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic Thursday afternoon. As Brian mentioned, I'm Yuren Ruplal. I'm the Partner Technical Specialist within Cloud Mania, specifically looking after Modern Workplace. What is Modern Workplace? It's the Microsoft suite of tools that we're all used to doing, but I will cover that a little bit later. We regard Teredo as one of our premier partners, and this is the reason that I'm here, is to cover 3 specific things within the Microsoft 365 space, and that's cost savings, security, collaboration. And how do all 3 of these options work in your business with the existing tool set and without bringing in third-party vendors and creating an administrative nightmare within your company? So jumping straight into it. So I always like bringing up the pandemic because it changed the way that we did business in South Africa. It was lockdown. Nobody was ready for it. We were locked in our houses. Everybody was throwing together solutions to try and get people working. Hybrid working still available with us now, but what happens if it happens again? And yes, we can say that we prepared for it, but we also know that small to medium businesses ended up closing down purely because there wasn't walk-in traffic or the usual customers weren't available for that. In South Africa, we probably have about 2.6 million small to medium enterprises, and looking at a CEDA report not too long ago, it was based on 2021 numbers. The small to medium enterprise generates 33.6% of a 10.6 trillion rand budget directly into South Africa's GDP. And this is why it's so important that we make sure that we always treat our SME clients exactly like we would an enterprise client. This is one of the reasons that Microsoft ran SMB month in November last year. It was a global initiative, specifically looking at where do SMBs see problems. What's the biggest drivers for it? And this is where do more or less what came from, because everybody complained about cost and technology. Everybody complained, well, we've got malicious actors out there that are hacking environments, and everybody complained about well, efficiencies in doing business because we don't have the correct tool sets in place. And that's where the M365 business bundles originated from. I simply love this line. People are the driving force behind progress. Passionate people drive. On there, we're South African. We can't get through anything. We got through COVID. Companies closed down. Companies reopened. We are a very, very resilient country. And because of that, with that passion, we see from a Cloud Mania as well as a Liquid C2 perspective, the SME market is the biggest growing market across South Africa as well as across the entire African continent, which is why Cloud Mania is here, specifically looking after your business needs. We deal with no large organizations. We take problems back to Microsoft. Microsoft gives us solutions for it, and we bring those solutions directly through to you so that we can make doing business, or we can help you to do business in an easier and more efficient manner. So, as I mentioned, some of the challenges that organizations are facing today. Real-time collaboration. What is real-time collaboration? SharePoint Online being the perfect example. We're all used to having a SharePoint farm, that V drive sitting somewhere on our laptops or on our desktops with a file share. SharePoint Online gets rid of that. It's a centralized repository. And Microsoft went the SharePoint Online route because they wanted to remove the complexity of setting up farms specifically for organizations like yours. It simply means out of the box, you get a SharePoint, installation already installed in the cloud, fully secured, available to you. You can do document management, content management, even project management directly out of there with the minimum amount of administration work on that. Real-time collaboration as well. If you look at some organizations, people need to be driving around all of the time. Instead of stopping and doing a meeting, as an example, with your manager, you can do it directly on the road. You can edit the document directly off your mobile device, off your laptop, off your tablet, and that's a real-time update with every version saved forever for that. And your managers can actually access that data while you are editing it, or up to 25 people can edit at the exact same time. Security is going to probably be one of the bigger talking points for today. Over the last 4 years, there's been a 674% increase in, personalized attacks, specifically in South Africa. And if that equated to a number, it simply means that every person in South Africa gets attacked at bare minimum of 7 times per day. And those are personalized attacks. This can be phishing, spear phishing, ransomware attacks, polymorphic virus attacks. And South Africa is seen as an easy target because our laws are that relaxed when it comes to cybercrime. Microsoft taken the initiative to include enterprise-grade security into a business package to make sure that your business is fully secured from there. And I'll cover some of that a little bit later on there. And something major that everybody brings up is cost. One of the big things that I hear almost every day is it's too expensive to do business because the software package or deploying servers in a data center is simply too expensive. Microsoft has looked at this, dropped everything into the cloud, included all of the offerings that you may need to run your business directly out of there. You start looking at vendor consolidation, license consolidation, administration consolidation, and you can start to see tangible effects on as you deploy these offerings into your company. So some of the big market trends that they've seen globally, and these reports are available online. The hyperlinks are at the bottom. But digital strategies, we see it every day. I'm sure everybody uses Takealot or Loot.co to order stuff. Checker 6060 as an example. Brick and mortar stores are disappearing. Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're probably never going to walk into a brick and mortar store. So digital strategies are a big driver in most companies. And it's not what type of strategy, it's who has the best solution in place. And a simple option was put forward a couple of weeks back to one of the retailers, where it was, why don't we build a 3D model of a person, let them try some clothes on in the store, and they never have to leave home. They order it and it gets there and it fits perfectly. So, these are the type of solutions, if your organization is looking into getting into something like that, that you could develop and you can actually on-sell to other partners as well, or onto other clients, become a subject matter expert in there. Again, big one, security. Most CIOs or CTOs within small to medium enterprises have reached a point where they're now saying it's not about if we're going to get attacked, it's when we're going to get attacked. And we're looking at I'm sorry, somebody muted me. Yeah, it's when are you actually going to get attacked? You've got a full suite of security tools fully backed by Microsoft. Microsoft uses the same tools within Azure to manage their own environments. And you can be rest assured, as Microsoft started off in they aren't that grand quadrant. They're now one of the leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for security. And financial stability needs. What happens if we have another pandemic, as an example? Most companies are looking at saving costs because they want a minimum of 12 to 24 months of cash reserve sitting in the bank. Why? It's so that they can still pay salaries. They can still order equipment or raw materials in the manufacturing industry. It gives them peace of mind. So as you start chipping away at looking at all of the offerings within an M365 business solution for that, you can start seeing on a per user basis and a tangible saving. And I'll get into the tangible savings on there because I did one yesterday for a client, and these are real world savings that they're now looking at. I'm not going to go through this, but and you can read it when you get a copy of the deck. But Satya Nadal basically meant with this, it was Microsoft that went out and did all of the legwork, and Microsoft's in place to actually deliver on these solutions for any type of organization, be it a small enterprise, i.e. a one-man shop, or an enterprise up to 2, 3, 400,000 people. Why? Because 99% of the world still runs on Microsoft technology. And in putting all of this money and research into this, they're now bundling offerings specifically related to typical industry problems and are moving away from let's drop a license and let's leave it like that for the next 3 years. So it becomes an end-to-end offering with all of the managed services and support that you'd expect from it and much more after that. So the big benefits of 365 solution, people-led transformation, real-time collaboration, work from anywhere. I mean, I think some of us are probably sitting at home right now in this particular session. Some of us are in the office. If this particular document was in the chat, somebody could be editing this document right now, and I'd see the changes while I'm having a chat with you. What does this do? Digital strategy. Somebody has a brainstorm moment at any time during the day. They can log in, have a look at the document, edit that document immediately, and the next morning at the office, when everybody gets there and they open it up, these new ideas are there. And this is what we're trying to foster. It's foster that sense of innovation within organizations rather than inhibit it. Safeguards, security, big talking point. I've got a whole slide portion on that, and we'll get into it. And then costing again. It's more around financial stability and predictable finances over the lifespan of your estate. So what is Microsoft 365? I'm not going to go into this. We're all quite used to it. Microsoft 365 is your standard Office suite, so Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, Exchange. But now with advanced security, Teams for real-time collaboration, SharePoint Online, you can host online meetings. It's a business-grade end-to-end tool with an offering that's rivaled by no other company. Delivering on the power of cloud, keep in mind Microsoft or anything 365. I normally say X365. Anything X365 is actually hosted out of Azure in its own tenant. So rest assured, any data that you're putting in there is fully secured as it was in its own container running as its individual environment. There's no noisy neighbors and you'll never get out of there. And Microsoft leverages Azure across the entire portion, even seeing tangible savings within the organization itself of I think it was in the region of about 1.6 billion a year in cost savings, with just moving every one of the users into a 365 space. Big cost saving on that. Security confidence. You create the security environment that's comfortable for you. Everything is there, everything is templatized, everything is policy based. We as Cloud Mania, we do have a security team internally, and if you want to have a discussion with your team from Torito, there's absolutely no problem from that. We can engage with them and yourselves. We don't believe in security being a one size fits all approach. Every solution is completely different, even though you as a client or 5 of our clients are asking for the exact same thing. We make sure that it's a fit for purpose option, and it's a working fit for purpose option that can be scaled up and scaled down based on the business requirements over a 3, 5, 10-year period on there. And improve productivity instead of using multiple tools to get one job done. So you bring in a third-party tool for, let's say, a voice solution, which I'll get into in the next couple of slides. You can integrate your voice solution directly into your Office 365 or your M365 package, right? Because you've got Teams installed there. Teams can be used as an enterprise cloud-hosted PBX offering on that. Microsoft saw the biggest uptick in this over COVID-19. They made a lot of inroads. Today, there's probably over 80 million users at any given point in time on the Teams voice network. So real-time collaboration from anywhere, and this is Microsoft Teams. So if I'm passionate about one thing Microsoft related, I love Teams completely. It is one of the most powerful tools that Microsoft has released, and looking at competitive products as well. When you do a side-by-side comparison, nothing actually compares to it. What is Teams? Teams is a standalone application, even though it's embedded into M365. And Microsoft took that decision just to embed it to make sure that all of those collaboration tools tie together. So keep in mind, Teams ties back into SharePoint. If I share this presentation into this chat, a SharePoint folder in Torito's directory gets created, that file gets stored there, and anybody that Michelle gives access to will have access to that file. Everything is timestamped, date stamped automatically for you. If somebody edits it, the last person edited is on there. It's a fully auditable trail that can be followed. Big one in Teams, chat-based workspace. Everybody's used to WhatsApp. It's the exact same thing, but it's based out of your Microsoft client. It's fully secure. Now you don't have to worry about end users chatting about company confidential information over a WhatsApp network. Why? You can install it on your phone, you can install it on your tablet, your laptop, your PC, on absolutely anything for that matter. 5 devices, it gives you the full same functionality out of it. As a hub for teamwork, the simple hub is you create a group for finance. You put in your organization's financial documents in there. You only give people that require access to those documents. So that's a specific group or a specific channel within that organization that has access to all of those files. You're not blocking any unrequired user from accessing that information, either making it public or doing anything more nefarious with it. Again, customizable for each team. You can add in different apps, and Microsoft has tie-ins for probably about 940 apps that you can plug into Teams. It works across the entire ecosystem, so you could plug Dynamic CRM into it. You could plug Power BI into it. Everything works completely seamlessly because all of those hooks and APIs are already built into the platform. And from a security perspective, data in transit, data in rest, data at rest, you don't need to worry about the security because all Teams traffic goes over the Microsoft network, the core network itself, which means that everything is encrypted at an AES 256-bit encryption level, which is the bare minimum that Microsoft uses. One of the nice things that I mentioned a little bit earlier about Teams, it includes a unified comms client, right? So, I mean, we used to an on-prem PBX. It's something that we all grew up with, and that's something that we used to. But now, why do you want to put down a physical PBX into your office? You've got to have somebody that's trained to maintain and support that device. You've got to have another person probably trained to manage all of your telephone environment on there. Why not just do it out of Teams? Now you're creating an efficiency in your organization where those skills, the guys can manage your enterprise calling system directly out of a web portal and then start looking at ways of how to streamline Teams or Teams voice to make it even more efficient for the organization. Reusing skills, reusing assets within the company, and reusing assets that you already own become the biggest differentiator on you. It usually comes down to user education. Because when you say that we're going with a soft phone, lots of users come back and simply say, no, I don't want to get rid of my phone. Absolutely no problem with that. If you educate your users correctly about it, the Teams transition is absolutely smooth with that. And from a Cloud Mania perspective, we've got a fully certified Teams voice offering. It's a little bit of an in-depth discussion to have on how it works and how the architecture works, but I'll be happy to have a discussion with anybody that's interested in there. From a functionality, from a PBX point of view, these are just some of the features. I haven't put a list in. I think there's about 75 features that you can do. So everything that you're used to doing on an enterprise PBX, you just manage directly out of your Teams admin portal. There's no other application. You don't have to VPN into it. You don't have to ask the owner of the PBX for permission. Everything is there for you. If you need real-time reporting on what your call statistics look like, everything is there for you. You can do it as a managed service. That's absolutely no problem as well. But companies that decide to move over onto Teams Voice never look back at all. From a Cloud Mania perspective, we've got a full voice portfolio offering. From just a sub-trunking perspective, we'd normally do on direct routing, we call it One Voice Basic. All we do is we take your Teams client, we connect it into the SBC, you get your dial pad on your Teams client, and off you go. You start making calls. You can make calls to 011, 021, 031, 087, 086. International numbers, we can put some blocks on there. If you want to dial international, we can add extra international dialing credits onto that, while always knowing that you are working with a local service provider and you aren't relying on Microsoft themselves and their voice network in order to get your voice traffic through. Within Cloud Mania, we take voice as a serious solution. It's regarded as a quality of service one within the organization. Then on that, we've got another offering that's available. It's a hosted cloud PBX as well. That's a different discussion point because it sometimes ties back into a contact center type solution. But we've got full call recording for audit and compliance. We do it via Atmos. If you have a requirement within your company for audit and compliance, that may be an option. You don't need to deploy it to every one of the users, but you do policy-based recording. So a call like this is recorded, as well as a PSTN call. And then we have hosted contact centers, keeping in mind Microsoft doesn't have call recording and contact centers as a homegrown solution. They've certified a couple of service providers, and C2 has gone out and partnered with the best of breed in order to bring these solutions into South Africa and the rest of Africa as well. From a security perspective, this is probably one of the bigger points that we will be talking about and may open up a discussion into other points specifically. So why would you trust Microsoft? Microsoft's Secure Trust portal, it's available on the web. Microsoft's gone out and gotten over 120 certifications just on security itself. These are industry standard certifications and these are country specific certifications. So industry standard would be your ISO 9000, ISO 27001. Country specific would be in Europe, GDPR, in South Africa, POPI. What that simply means for you is you now don't need to go ahead and go and get that certification, because the Act simply states that if you put your data into a cloud service provider's environment, you inherit those security policies. But the data still belongs to you. So it simply means that you have to make sure the data is protected. So there are some rules that we have in place. It's like a top 10 and then some of the other stuff that we'll follow to make sure that the data is always secure. And then purely from that perspective, we change out what the options are on there. And simply put, we follow the Microsoft rules. It's the Microsoft rules when it comes down to security. And with our security team in place, they will make their recommendations based on what your organization is specifically looking for on there. Okay, so supporting a unique work style for every user. So this is one of the nicer things from a Microsoft perspective, in that you've got Teams, Outlook, you've got SharePoint Online, but you can customize the experience for every one of the users in your organization. You don't have to just deploy a t-shirt size. I mean, if you look at what I'd normally do is I do customized user profiling within the company itself, right? And look at what the users do, and then start looking at what type of licensing we deploy and what type of services we deploy as well. There might be some users that are high risk, your CFO, your CEO, your CIO, maybe they need more security on that. And we customize that particular offering based on based on the information that we receive from you. What that does is that gives you a working design with a complete security blueprint that you can add into your enterprise architecture, and you can modify that on an as required basis. We've always got our consulting team. Torito is always going to be there for you. We'll always be there for Torito, so rest assured, you've always got the backing of the best when you come up when you run into any problems specifically. And even if there's no problems from that point of view, even if you just want to have a chat or ask a question, the teams are always going to be available around that. So safeguarding your business, and this again, like I mentioned, security is the big thing. Some of the biggest security threats that you'll see out there, I'm sure we're all familiar with this: malware, viruses, phishing, ransomware. I've left some of them out, something that's called DDoS as a service, ransomware as a service, polymorphic viruses. These are the scary ones that nobody likes to talk about because nobody knows when they're going to get hit with it. When we start looking at the Microsoft 365 Business Suite specifically, those security tools are built in. So built-in tools include Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which is your standard antivirus and monitoring tool. And then you've got Defender for Office 365 that monitors every link, every attachment, every email that comes in, which ties back into Azure Information Protection. Azure Information Protection simply will cross-check against every known database. If something is a threat, it'll either release the mail, lock down the mail, and give you a notification, and also notify your administrators that there's something going wrong specifically in there. Very, very powerful tool. And it's included in an M365 business package. Well, it's the M365 business premium package on there. So some of the blueprints that we follow, and we always follow, well, I always follow this as best practices. Top 10 ways to secure your business data. And I mean, these are the first 10 things that you should do in your organization to set up a layer of security within the company and make sure that your identities and access control is protected, as well as your company's data and personal information. I'm not going to go through all of them, but at the basic point of it, multi-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, otherwise known as. One of the really nice things about it is now not just a password. Brute force, you can crack a password. Multi-factor authentication, if somebody tries to log in, it'll send a notification to my, if it's me, it'll send a notification to my phone. I've got to put in something that I see and authorize that access. If I don't, it times out completely. It gives you an extra layer of protection on there. And it has to be managed well within the company. Admin accounts, very, very important. You want to have as few admin accounts as possible that have global admin access. You want to restrict as much access as possible, purely because if somebody penetrates your network, the general rule of thumb is that person's been there for about 124 days before you notice something going wrong. And by then, sometimes it's actually too late. If you hit with a ransomware attack, your files are locked down, and if you don't pay, unfortunately, they will delete everything. Preset security policies, all of these policies are available to you. They set up at their baseline, and they clearly describe exactly what each one of the policies do. And this is an end-to-end offering. This is not just the core requirement for that. You pick and choose or cherry pick from that list. You modify that and you implement that within your organization. But once again, it comes down to user education, because you can implement very, very strict policies or very lenient policies. Microsoft security stance, as well as CloudMania's security stance, is adopt the zero trust approach from day one. Simply, that means nobody has access to anything within the organization. After they log in, if they need access to a file, they have to request access to the file with the reason on there. With requesting access that's auditable, you have access to that file, and that's how it continues going until you get access into all of the information that you need. It might sound a bit harsh, but in this day and age, with corporate espionage, with ransomware, with the viruses out there, with just malicious actors, or even internal to your company, a threatening employee, somebody that you may have retrenched, or somebody that just has a grudge on you, you can protect yourself pretty well by implementing offerings like that. Email security, again, included in Business Premium. Defender for Office 365 Plan 1 monitors every link, every document, every email, checks that, sandboxes it. If it's safe, it'll let it in. If it's not safe, it's going to kick it out and then just let you know on there. reduce your attack footprint. What that simply means is restrict the type of or the number of applications that you allow your users to deploy into your environment. The reasoning behind it is the more applications that you have on a machine, the bigger your footprint is. And you don't have any specific control over which ports get open, as an example, what communication protocols these applications are using. Anything can happen. Again, with Business Premium, you get Intune for mobile device management and mobile application management. What does this do for your company? You put the applications that you approve with IT into the Microsoft Store. Users are only allowed to deploy those applications, nothing else within there. Everything else is completely locked down unless the user asks for admin access on the machine. You're now protecting yourself, you're protecting your organization, and you're protecting the future of your business. Maintenance. Big thing. We all remember Microsoft patches every Tuesday and Thursday. It's now gone to, well, once a quarter or maybe once in a half if we're really lucky. If there's anything pressing, Microsoft will patch it almost immediately. But what this does is it gives us a guaranteed timeline on what's going to be fixed. There's no sudden patches that come out and then you've got to put in change requests to do the testing and everything else. Get your IT team to do all of the testing prior to deploying it within the organization. Once they test across the application stack that your company uses, deploy it to every one of the users. You know that you're always up to date. And with an always up-to-date machine, rest assured, on the back end, Microsoft is also looking at it. They don't collect any personal data. It's just metadata and all of the signals that come through. For example, if a Windows 11 enterprise machine in Japan gets hacked, as an example, and they realize it gets hacked through a piece of malware, Microsoft automatically remediates that machine, cleans it up, patches where the flaw was, and automatically deploys that patch in the background to every user across the world. So we like to call M365 hack once and never after that. So Defender for Business. One of the nice things that Microsoft did here was you had Defender for Endpoint Plan 1 and Plan 2. That simply meant that it was an enterprise offering. Microsoft looked at the offering and said, no, we need endpoint protection specifically for service within an organization, and especially within the small to medium organization. But we need to give them enterprise security, enterprise grade security at the cost of an SME budget. And they went back and they looked at the Defender plans and simply came out with Defender for Business. One of the nicer things about Defender for Business, if you're running Microsoft 365 Business within your organization, I think it's a minimum qualifying of about 40 seats, if I'm not mistaken, you get a drastically discounted rate on this. So all your antivirus, malware, endpoint monitoring gets done on this. You don't deploy a license to a device. All you do is you just onboard that into your existing Defender your existing Defender stack. You can run this as a standalone. There's absolutely no problem with that. You could be using, I don't know, Bitdefender as an example, as your in-house antivirus tool. You could use Defender as a standalone just on your virtual and your physical servers in your data center. So some of the things that Defender offers, I'm not going to go through all of it. It's a busy slide, and I think the next one is just as busy. But threat and vulnerability management, it does all of the scanning for you. You set the parameters and the rules according to what your organization desires, and the tool goes out and just keeps managing that for you. If it picks up something, you get notified for it. If it doesn't see anything, it just keeps running in the background. Attack surface reduction, I covered. Number of applications deployed onto a machine. Fewer applications, less surface to attack. Next-gen protection. We might just think that this is for SMEs, but keep in mind all of the data, all of the telemetry that Defender for Endpoint, which is installed on your device, running Business Premium or Business Standard if you've taken it as a standalone offering, and Defender for Servers, ties back directly via the Microsoft SIEM, which is Sentinel, into the Microsoft data center. So Microsoft is basically running an outsourced SOC and SIEM for you in the background as a just in case. You can set up your own SOC and SIEM, and you can use EDR and XDR from a security perspective and tie that back into your SOC or into multiple company SOCs and security operation centers, and then start looking at where the general threat vectors are coming at. If we take it into context, Microsoft analyzes 6.9 trillion signals per day, some of them good, some of them bad. But they monitor the signals to make sure that they keep updating their database on what might be a threat and what might not be a threat. Behind that security option, there's 3,500 Microsoft employees. These aren't third-party contractors that Microsoft has brought on, Microsoft has opened up a security company within Microsoft. And Microsoft goes ahead and spends probably about $1.5 billion US on development in the security space. And that's part of the reason that they're regarded as one of the organizations in the leader quadrant when it comes down to Gartner. Endpoint detection. Endpoint detection, you find a problem, pull the problem in, start the remediation on there. If it's just a single machine, isolate it from your network. If it's multiple machines, remediate and then clean up those machines. One of the important things on this is please don't forget about backups. Microsoft doesn't have a native backup tool in the arsenal. They do partner with the likes of Veeam, Acronis, and some of the other service providers on there, but always have a backup strategy available for your end user devices as well as your office devices. Some of the data can be recovered in the event of loss, but you'd probably end up losing about 60% of what's there. So that also needs to be part of your strategy, because now if you look at OneDrive within the entire suite, your OneDrive is your My Documents folder. If you don't have a copy of that or a concurrent copy of that at any point in time, if your machine crashes, if it's infected with ransomware, how do you access your documents? What happens if you're the CFO of the company and you have the financials of the company on your laptop and you can't access that, but somebody else is extracting that information? Make sure it's 100% secure. So the defense stack that Defender uses, and I'm not going to go through all of this, is simply too much. But as I mentioned, device protection. So specific controls on how users log in. So on my machine from CloudMania, we aren't allowed to use window hello and fingerprint. We've got to put in physical passwords and we've got to use authenticator. So these are policies that you can set up. Identity protection as your Active Directory, that's there for you. If you're using P1, you get a whole lot of functionality with that on identity and access control. One of the big ones being conditional access. And everybody has always asked about conditional access. In its simplest form, you could stop somebody from outside of South Africa logging into your tenant and causing havoc. How? You put a geo block or geo fence around your tenant. Somebody from Russia tries to log in, it looks at the IP address, it's sorry, you aren't the organization, or you don't work for the organization. If I logged into my laptop in Johannesburg and suddenly 10 seconds later there was a login from Kenya, it would know that that's a false login and it would block that. Set up these policies, make sure identity and access is at the top of your list. Information protection, make sure your drives are encrypted. Make sure your drives are backed up. All of these options, excuse me, all of these options are available in the package and fully customizable, once again, based on your business needs. Threat resistance. Why would you want to put Application Guard in as an example right at the bottom? Application Guard simply stops an application from being installed. Microsoft, as well as all of the other companies out there, so Symantec, ESET, the usual suspects that we know, McAfee, all of them collaborate on those databases. There's a set of known apps that you shouldn't be installing on your machine. Why? They open up backdoors to it. Application Guard will stop that for you. Why? Because that database is kept as up to date as most databases would be. From a costing point of view, one cost-effective solution. So some of the big cost-saving areas, and I'm almost done. Some of the big cost-saving areas that you're going to be looking at. License cost consolidation. Now, I did an exercise for a client yesterday where they had a specific Microsoft offering and they wanted to add on a couple of components. And then they wanted, well, to go out to the open market and buy these components from different service providers because these service providers say that their product is better. That's an opinion at the end of the day, but I said, look, I will go and have a look at it. Something that I worked out yesterday was that if you went from business standard to a business premium, as an example, the cost is X. If you decided to add on or bolt on multiple options into that environment, you would add an extra almost 600 Rand a month per user to the base cost. The business premium option with all this functionality built in is less than half of that. If you went to a third-party vendor and bought all of that, it takes your cost up to 1,887 Rand per user per month. So you're now consolidating. And what does this do? It brings down your administration costs as well. Your people now have time to do things that are more important within the organization. Total cost of risk. Some people see it as putting your eggs in one basket. Others see it as, I'd rather put my eggs in one basket as a holistic solution because I've got one neck to strangle. So it depends on which side of the fence you're sitting on, but I would rather have lower risk in my company rather than take a chance. And if we use Poppy as the example, personal data breach could send the directors to jail for 10 years or a fine of up to 10 million rand per offense, right? Most companies, unfortunately, in South Africa would never survive that. So I'm quite risk averse and I don't mind saying it. For my IT administration and deployment savings, back in the day, if you have an IT admin background, you had 50 people starting in an organization, and the first person got their laptop on the first day, and 2 weeks later, the last person got it. So you're paying salaries for that 2 weeks. With integrated functions within Business Premium, like Autopilot, you set up the package, you give the user the Active Directory instructions, you hand over the laptop to them, they go to a desk, plug a network cable in, log in, and the machine deploys itself automatically. At Liquid or C2, I've seen the IT team deploy 240 laptops in a single sitting, and that was done in less than 4 hours. So that's a type of extra functionality that you get to allow the business to work more efficiently. Travel costs, everybody knows we have servers in data centers. You've got to pay overtime. You've got to pay somebody's cell phone bill. If they're driving out to the data center, sometimes they might need danger pay considering the potholes in Johannesburg. But you can start getting rid of those costs. Why? All of the remote management tools are built in. Everything gets done and managed directly off web portals. If you use a VNC client as an example, you can do 90% of the work without leaving the comfort of your office. At an automation level, you get full access into Power BI or into the Power App stack. Power Apps, we start looking at things like robotic process automation. In its simplest form, if you had a data capturer looking at multiple files, looking for data changes and then updating a database, you could use Power Apps to automate that process completely. Set up multiple triggers, multiple flows, multiple notifications. As soon as somebody changes a row or column in a spreadsheet, that change will automatically propagate once it goes through the entire flow process. Also included Power Pages or Power Apps, very, very powerful tools. If you're looking at designing a web portal or an app, low to no code based, very simple to use. You got to have some programming knowledge, but fully supports .NET, Python, C, the major programming languages that are available on there. And these are included in your organization. And I would recommend that you ask your IT team, if you already have it, is to start playing around with it. Maybe develop an app, something specific to your industry. You become the industry expert on that. Everybody comes to you because you own the intellectual capital on there. And then from CapEx to OpEx, very important. No financial person likes to see a million rand go off their bank account at any point in time. It's the reality of it. Moving to an OpEx model is very predictable. Why? If you need 100 users, you get 100 users. That's all there is to it. And you only pay for what you need. If you need 200 users, but you only need them for 3 months, we enable the extra 100 for that 3 months and then remove that licensing. You now don't need to commit upfront to a 1 year or a 3 year contract to simply say that you have to use these licenses. The amount of flexibility that you get within this particular offering now allows you to tweak your business and make sure that you're getting the maximum efficiency first out of what you have, number one, and then out of what you can implement within your organization. 365, I'm not going to get too much into it. It's a bit of a busy slide, but excuse me. Fully hosted in the cloud. Again, the big challenges facing the IT industry is simply put, cost, access to technology, access to opportunities within within the industry space itself, or even branching out into different industries. Microsoft has the tools and the technology available to make sure that you can deliver on the promises that you provide to your end clients or to your users within your organization. Again, I'll get back into the savings, business user productivity. With all of the tools that are available to you, you can see there's numbers there. These numbers were taken in the US, but we have done it in South Africa for one of our partners and one of our clients in KZN. One of the big things that we saw was if they implemented everything, they would have on average 34% more time available to them. Why? It's improving automation, improving different options on there, and then looking at the outputs and modifying those outputs based on what your business requires in there. Again, those are real world numbers. $900 on travel. So you don't need to well, pay for plane tickets, pay for travel, or anything specifically on that. These are costs that actually end up going back into your bank account that can be reinvested into your business in order to make your business more efficient, start looking at strategic changes within the business, or even, excuse me, or even branching out and looking at larger business opportunities in there. And some of the key takeaways from this that I hope that you have taken in is that eliminate redundancy within the organization. I mean, get rid of all of the licenses. Have a look at your licensing estate would probably be the first thing. Have a look at where the inefficiencies are. We can come in, we can have a look at it. You can do a full audit of that environment, and you can make the correct decision, cut down on things that you don't need, as well as on things that you may have doubled up on. So, I mean, you may be running Oracle Identity and Governance, but you've already got access to Active Directory. Why are you paying Oracle an extra 334 Rand a month per user for that particular solution when it's already there available for you? Simplify management, everything available for you on a web portal directly out of your admin portal. Log in via portal.microsoft.com. Global admin access, all your licenses are in there. Everybody that looks at CSP always says it's such a breeze to work through because we'll never fail an audit with Microsoft. And that's something that your partner Torito as well as Cloud Media will always ensure for you. And then protect workers on the security side. You know, we may say that we have a very harsh approach to all of our employees, but the reality of it is sometimes we have to be harsh to make sure that we protect our best interests. It is one of those things that is going to be ingrained in business moving forward. Why? Purely because there are enough threat actors out there or malicious actors out there that could cause complete havoc with organizations in South Africa and in our sister SADC countries as well. If I use a perfect example, I mean, this was in the public news, so I don't think it would be a problem. ENS Africa, largest law firm on the continent. They had to pay a user, what was it, just about 7 million Rand, if I'm not mistaken, because of a breach of email. The really crazy thing about that was and it was somebody from C2 or Cloud, well, yeah, it was the C2 cybersecurity team that brought it up. If they had paid 500 Rand to Microsoft, they would have mitigated that problem. So yeah, you've got to look at it slightly differently to say it might cost 500 Rand, but the reality of it is, you know, I'm getting this extra protection that I'm looking for, and it's giving me peace of mind at the end of the day. And those are the important things that will keep your business running. You create a more efficient business, and you can grow your bottom line because every business is here for profit and revenue at the end of the day, which is why it becomes so important to follow best practices, listen to architects, listen to design specialists, and then take in all of that information and just modify that specifically for your company. And I think that would be me in closing, and I will open up the floor, Michelle, to any questions that may have been posted.
Excellent. Thank you, Ren. Appreciate it. I think, yeah, we'll just hop into a Q&A now, guys. So if anyone has any questions that they'd like to fire away, please do so. I know that, Melissa, you did have some questions that came through from the RSVP as well. So if we don't have any questions coming through just yet in the chat, we can jump into those ones while everyone thinks about the questions they'd like to ask. So maybe jump into the first of those, Mel.
Of course. And I think I might need to change my name to Michelle. Don't worry, Ren, it's not the first time. It happens a lot. It's all groovy. Cool. A lot of our questions were around Microsoft Teams. I think everyone was very excited about that. So the first one is, can you still use a desk phone with Teams voice, and is it compatible with any desk phone?
So the simple answer is yes, you can use a desk phone. There's a range of offerings, everything from executive boardroom layer, which is a Teams room, all the way down to just a standard, almost a gigaset type device that you could drop on a table. When it comes down to the phones that you can use within Teams, we'll need to know make and model. That's specifically to know whether that's been certified by Teams or by Microsoft. Microsoft is very finicky because all of the devices certified for Teams have the Silk and Satin codecs already embedded into them. That's what makes sure that your call quality always stays at a specific standard. So if the device is not supported, you can still use it, but if you run into call quality problems, and if you log a call on Microsoft, they may actually say to you, reproduce the problem on a certified device, and then you'll get support for it. What we're noticing in deploying Teams Voice to multiple clients, both in Africa and the rest of South Africa as well, they take devices, 2 weeks later, they come back and say, would you like to buy the device back because nobody's using it? Because all of the functionality that you normally get on the phone, you can do it directly off your Teams client. There's absolutely no problem with that. Everything from administration down to all of the call functions that I had on the one slide. So simple answer, yes. Longer answer, we need to look at it.
Awesome, thank you. And then are there any issues for Mac users with Microsoft Teams Voice?
No, we haven't seen any. So within the Liquid family or Cassava family, the reality of it is most of the group team all use Mac devices internal to the organization. We've deployed Teams Voice as the standard solution across the entire company. That's about 6,500 users, if I'm not mistaken, across Africa. And the Mac users have absolutely no problems. The client works as it should. Keeping in mind, Microsoft makes tweaks. If you do find a problem, please let me know. Or let your account manager from Torito know and just give me a call. It might be a problem that's cropping up around something specific, but we don't see any problems coming up in, well, the last few weeks that we've done deployments.
And I suppose just to enhance on that, I mean, we obviously went full Microsoft quite a long time ago and did a full Teams cut over quite a few years ago, and Teams Voice as well. And our business is approximately 65% Mac. So, you know, it was certainly one of the biggest requirements from our perspective, and very seamless on the Apple platform as well. We've got a quick question here from Albert, who said, thanks, Yuren. You mentioned something in line of that ENS pay 500 Rand per month from Microsoft. They would have saved themselves the interception of their emails. What package is necessary to ensure that your emails do not get intercepted? And I just wanted to clarify as well, thanks, Yuren, for bringing up that example. That payout from that law firm was actually 55 million Rand, which is why it made so many headlines. But Yuren, if you want to jump in there and just talk about the solution.
Yeah, so it's actually it's an end-to-end offering. I mean, if you took it as a fully structured package, you'd look at Microsoft 365 Business Premium, and the reason for that is you get Defender for Office 365 and Azure Information Protection. Keeping in mind that these two products work hand in hand with each other, right? And while tying back into Azure Active Directory. The policies are there to control email interception, but you need to almost modify the base policy based on your company requirements, and then deploy that policy to everybody. So all of the tools are there for you. It's just that, you know, when you look at the breadth of services that's offered in, and some people think of it as a bit of a joke. It's a business. It's a business package for small to medium enterprise. I normally step back and I simply say it's the same functionality that you get out of an enterprise package. But you just need that time to have a look at the services, configure it, and make sure that it's deployed for you. If you want, we can have a separate discussion about it on how or what would be the correct way to do it. I don't mind engaging with your Torito account manager specifically on that. And if I need to involve the cybersecurity team from C2, we can definitely get somebody in and have an open discussion about it and get in depth about it as well.
Thanks, Yuren. And I think
maybe
just to add on to that, in terms of impersonation, we do have solutions that are specifically around DMARC technology. That's the likes of SendMark and you know, other brands that effectively deploy those solutions. Those are very quickly deployed, and they effectively guarantee that it's impossible to impersonate your email domain at all. And we actually had a session around that earlier on in the week. You know, it's one of the technologies that they said if it was deployed in this particular ENS solution, it would have been impossible for them to entirely pretend that they were coming from that domain. I think the combination of what Yuren was talking about is really important, because a lot of the cybersecurity tools prevent the incoming threat and the actual attack and kind of attempt to penetrate the actual network and those solutions. The other one is a little bit more outbound, which is the DMARC solutions, and those are around the inability to use your domain and your business and your brand and the trust that your customers and your suppliers have with it in order to fraudulently change payments and all that type of stuff. So both of those solutions are available as well, and you're welcome to reach out to us if you'd like to get an idea of the costings around that. They are very inexpensive in comparison, obviously, to the risk associated with not doing so. Thanks for the question there, Albert. If we did answer it, give us a thumbs up on your question there. If we didn't, feel free to expand on it, and we'll do our best to answer it as well. Mel, have we got any more from the RSVPs?
Sure, I've got one last one, which is an interesting one. Can you port your existing phone numbers to Microsoft Teams Voice, or do you have to get all new numbers for everyone?
Porting is legal in South Africa. It's just the time that it takes to actually port. That's where the big problem is. But I mean, it's a standard process across all of the service providers. You fill in a form, give us the number range. You probably hand it over to your Torito account manager. They'd approach Liquid, and we'd send that through to the regulator. I'm not overly sure on the timelines, but we take those numbers as is, and we bring them onto our network. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard yesterday that porting to Liquid is actually free. We don't attach any bills to that. And once those numbers, or once we know what the range is, those numbers get assigned to users, and they just use their Teams client like they were using a normal phone. They don't see the back end change.
Great. Thanks, Jeroen. Any other questions? Any other comments? Again, feel free to also raise your virtual hand if you want to speak directly to our team, or pop it in that chat. I think if there aren't any others and they just pop up a little bit later, then you can obviously reach out to our team anytime, and we'll get you the various costings and solutions, or importantly, set up any individual workshops that our customers would like to have to dive into a little bit more detail around stuff that's a little bit more relevant to your business. So you might have some of these solutions already deployed and you're interested in deploying others, or an actual migration in mind. So please do feel free at any time to reach out to us, and we'll help you out with those immediately. Good. I think that is it for the question. Oh, hang on. We've got Kums asking a question here. Kums, far away, big guy.
Hi, Brian. Sorry, just to touch on what the guys covered, but more so in terms of the offerings, just for the guys, for the clients that are in the chat. The Teams POCs is offered free of charge from our team, from the business itself. We can do a POC at any time for you guys. It takes us like probably 20 to 30 minutes to set up, depending on the users. And we can do that for you guys at any time if you want to run a Teams POC in your environment.
Awesome. Thanks for mentioning that as well, Kums. Kums has got his hand up again.
Sorry, I was putting it down.
Cool. Thanks, Kums. Absolutely, we do offer POCs to all of our customers to test it out. I recall when we went Teams Voice, and this was probably 3 years ago. I think we were one of the first in the country to dip our toe into the full integration of Teams Voice. And I remember our IT manager coming into my office and unplugging my desk phone, and I almost stabbed him with the spoon I was eating with, because I just didn't want him to remove the thing that had been on my phone pretty much all of my business life. And, it's one of the things that we've obviously realized is that the big change from the standard way of doing telecommunications and having a desk phone, it is quite a significant one. I've been a technology person all my life, and I certainly didn't want the change. But we've certainly found, and all of the customers that we've taken to the Teams Voice platform have found that the integration of that capability directly into your cell phone is game changing. Our business has not had a desk phone for the last 3 years, and you literally hop into the Teams. Ooh, I think we've lost power there. Hopefully our connectivity will stay up for that. You literally hop into the Teams application on your phone, and you dial from there to whatever landline or direct number or cell phone number that you want to, and the business covers that
I think it's just everyone at the office.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, is it just me or did everybody just go silent?
No, it happens when the generator kicks in. They'll be back in a moment.
I'm very hopeful that I wasn't stuck in a silly pose when that when that connectivity dropped. Was I in a cool pose at least?
Yes.
I hope so. So sorry, I don't know where you guys lost me there. But yeah, you know, that ability to just pick up your phone, hop into the Teams application and dial any number you want to, and obviously the cost is covered by the business because it's the full Microsoft integration, or use your cell phone as normal. That really has been game changing for our organization, and certainly the feedback from a lot of our customers who have done full Teams voice deployments. So yeah, definitely love to chat to you guys if you'd like to understand more about that, or go into a POC and actually test the technology yourselves. Good stuff. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it. Oh, hang on, we've got a question from Sean here. So are call costs the same on Teams voice? I'm going to mute you there. Are call costs the same on Teams voice as a typical VoIP PBX? We had to port, for example, if we had to port, for example, from 3CX PBX.
At a Cloud Mania level, C2 as well as Lit, I mean, we've got a standard voice rate. Whether you're using a PRI line or whether you're using a sub-channel, the voice rate is standard across the board. And I mean, it's on a rate card. I'm sure your team from Torito does have access to that, and they can make those rate cards available to you.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, Robin, do you want to go through, because I know that you know, from a Torito perspective, we obviously have quite a range of options that we can offer our customers in terms of the actual voice breakout and the voice rates. They are absolutely the same as an example, our hosted PBX environment, which delivers it, and we're very happy to get you those rate cards as well, just to understand. But we do integration with quite a few different breakout providers for the actual VoIP connectivity. So there are a range of options there. Robin, I don't know if you want to add anything technical, because I'm super layman on that. Go for it.
No, so we also use the direct routing method. We normally partner with another vendor, so yeah, but we can get pretty good rates on the voice calls there as well. Yeah. So
and effectively there is no premium from a Microsoft VoIP and voice perspective on Teams in doing so. There's no premium that is added to those voice rates if you're on Microsoft Teams versus if you're on a local PBX versus if you're on a hosted PBX. Effectively, the breakout that you choose through the partner is the breakout rate that you pay for it. Hope that answers your question, Sean. Give us mute your. There we go. Right, I think that is it. If there are any last questions, just raise your hand now or hold your peace, and we will close up for the day. Sorry, there's a little bit of feedback. Thank you, guys. Appreciate everyone attending the call. Yuren, thank you again for your assistance and doing the presentation. And we look forward to seeing you guys at the next session. Much appreciated. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Cheers. Bye.